Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 not 1 versus 1 replay cast. As of late, we've been doing a lot of IEM, and it's going to be another one of those. So we've got ourselves another best of 3. And spawning up in the top left-hand side of the map, it's not going to be a Terran versus Zerg this time, but it does have this Terran. It's Splice TY. Cast some of his games before versus Dark. And now we'll see how he's going to do versus just an absolute monster of a Protoss. Gosu Cruz Classic. So, TY and Classic, a very high-level Terran versus Protoss. I just think that it's, like, as far as just 2 very solid player goes, I don't think you can have any better, honestly. So, we're going to be doing another one of these best of 3s. So, basically just 3 matches in total. And I'll cast as many of them as there are. TY is starting things off in a very TY-esque fashion. Proxying versus Classic. So going to be trying to maybe cheese out the Protoss player a little bit. I mean, the meta has settled a little bit since the proxy madness sort of began. So Protoss, they're a little bit more comfortable with dealing with sort of Terran crazy aggression, and Classic starting things off with a very good scout. But no, I mean, as TY starts his proxy here, we'll see if he just goes for a Reaper. And then Factory on the way. He does have that double gas going. So, I mean, TY is going to be going for some aggression, but Terrans have got pretty good at transitioning out of this. Classic comes on in, scouts the lack of a barracks, and then just starts his Cyber Core, and then his Nexus. Has a Zealot on the way. So just doing the standard procedure when you know that you're going to be getting proxied, most likely. Now, I mean, as far as Protoss players go, Classic, like, he's one of my favorite Protoss players. He's just such an absolute monster. He won me over by that regard. I mean, guys, I play Protoss, but I used to just play Terran, really, back in the day. So then whenever Classic would play, he'd just destroy everyone back in the day. And, well, it wasn't even that long ago. He's always been destroying people, but no, he's just so good at what he does. And that's why he's always awesome to watch. Such a high-level Protoss player. For now, has to deal with this Reaper. TY comes on in the first Reaper, pretty much guaranteed to get a kill, usually, just because of the nature of that timing. However, now Classic has an Adept. He has a Zealot out, so he should be fine to deal with this. And TY back at home, he's just got a Tech Lab, got his Factory finishing up or working on that Tech Lab, so that Factory is back at home. I mean, he didn't proxy anything else. He just went for this individual Reaper, or 2 Reapers, pardon me. That is definitely not an individual. Other Reaper's going to come on in here, try and get another probe. So far, just the one has gone down. He's going to try and get another, but the Adept's doing a good job of preventing that from happening, and that Reaper does get out. So, I mean, TY, just going for the standard, I'm going to proxy you and then macro out of it play. And Classic, good defense so far. Now, Classic comes on in here with his probe. Going to scout that natural base, which is a very important tell for the Protoss player to know whether the Terran's really one-basing you or expanding like TY is. So TY just started doing the, okay, yeah, I'll proxy you, but then I'll follow it up with other tech and whatnot. Now Classic, though, just going into pretty standard stuff from this point out. Oracle on the way. Getting out his Stalker as well behind this. So I got the ragtag team of units there, the Zealot, the Adept, the Stalker. But no, we'll see. I mean, TY, he just got the 1 probe. I mean, it can vary, but the ones, it's like, all right, yeah, you get the probe. Get a single probe. Sometimes it's good to get more. TY did commit to 2 Reapers. But now he is moving out with his Reapers, and they can always dive on into the base later and try and get more done. It's actually a possibility that sometimes Reapers later on in the game get more done than they do in the early game, just because your opponent's like, okay, it's Reaper o'clock has passed, it's time to worry about everything else. And then just a random Reaper, or possibly in this case 2, could be diving into the Classic space. I mean, Classic, he's got a Stalker and an Oracle in his main base, so he should be safe for now. His other Oracle's moving across the map, comes on in, tries to get an SCV, but good Cyclone defense there from TY. And oh, TY, look at that, actually with his Liberator, pulled it back to give vision to get damage out on that Oracle. So TY actually shut down that Oracle very, very hard. A very good move for the Terran player there. I mean, just killing off the Oracles, because sometimes Oracles don't get a lot of damage. That's fine. But in other cases, Oracles, like, you want to keep them alive because they're good for tagging throwing down stasis wards. They're so important for Protoss. So losing that and not getting any damage for Classic is a real kick in the teeth for the Protoss player. Classic, though, I mean, he's definitely not out by any means. It's unfortunate that happened for him. He's got another Oracle coming on in, but I mean, Oracles, they don't deal as much damage as they used to, so that SCV survives, and the Cyclones are very good at shutting them down. And Classic just going into a third base, the sort of standard follow-up. And TY just sharking around with his Reapers. Classic got a pylon up, just for, I guess, whenever proxies, but or whatever he wants to warp in or anything later on. But he is just playing straight up from this point out, getting out a Robo, a Forge on the way. Meanwhile, on TY's side of the map, interestingly enough, TY starts Combat Shield before he starts his Stim Pack. This makes me think he's going to be going for a very precise build. He's built up a couple of tanks. He's now moving out. Stim wouldn't be done in time with this push, but Combat Shield might, so that's why he went to Combat Shield before his Stim Pack. So TY gonna be maybe looking to go for a bit of an odd timed push. I mean, he's one of these Terrans that can't always go for those pushes. Two Cyclones do find this pylon. That may put TY a little bit on edge, but not too concerned, and continuously moving out here. And the question is Classic going to be able to hold? I mean, he doesn't have charge. He's getting Blink on the way. He's got 5 gateways coming out. I mean, he made the Robo, but never made any Immortals or anything. I mean, yeah, doesn't even have one queued up. So this could actually hurt Classic a lot, as TY is now scanning. Going to be moving up across the map. Picks off that Stasis Ward. And there's no Stim for TY right now, but these tanks, all these Marines with Combat Shield, are going to be very strong. They've now got that Combat Shield. And this could really hurt. Meanwhile, TY double punch coming in with this Liberator. All the while, I mean, looks like TY lost a few workers, probably to an Oracle there. But, I mean, as far as defending this goes, Classic is in a world of trouble. He's going to have +1 and going to have Blink on the way, but I'm not sure they'll be done in time to save the Nexus, because TY is really committing here. He's getting a bunker up, and Classic may just need to sack the base. Every now and then in Starcraft 2, you got to make a call. You got to say, okay, if I go down this certain path, it's going to hurt me more than just eating a loss. So Classic does do that. He just backs off, pulls off his Nexus. TY with the strong push, but look at this. Classic actually moving out on the map, going for a bit of a counter attack. And this is where it could get a little dicey for TY. This is actually a fantastic move, I think, because Terran usually backs off with a push like this, but Classic's he's just going to be going for it before TY is even ready for this. TY's got Stim on the way, but his +1, his Stim, his Concussive Shell isn't done, so Classic's going to have Blink Stalkers, which can always get something done, versus Terran that's unupgraded. And right now, when he's moving in, he does have to be very careful with this push, but he's going to see what he can get done. I like this move from Classic. It's a real interesting one, that's for sure. But few adepts coming in. Stalkers actually pick off the Cyclones that were rallied a little bit ahead of this army. Classic does have to be careful, because the rest of these Marines are coming back from behind, so he will have to blink out with the rest of those units and escape. He picked off a couple of SCVs, traded out with the army. However, for Classic, it is still a little bit concerning. He's on 2 bases, whereas the Terran player, TY, he's got his 3rd base done. And Classic, I mean, he's got a ton of Stalkers he can warp in, but Stim is done for the Terran player, and Classic doesn't really have much else going for him. He never got, say, up a Templar Archives or a Dark Shrine or anything else to really back up, so it looks like he's just going to be committing and trying to make it happen with an absolute ton of Blink Stalkers. I mean, respect to the guy for giving it a try, being like, yep, I'm down on bases, so I got to make this work. He's now stepping forward. Stalkers blink forward, pick off a Siege Tank. That's a nice move. Nabs off a Viking. I mean, TY does have to be careful, and now we see Guardian Shield going down, these Stalkers trading out with the Bio. I mean, Stalkers don't usually do well versus Bio, but in overwhelming numbers, they can make it work. So Classic's coming on in with all these Stalkers, and he's actually going to pick off the Command Center. Fantastically done. That is just such a sick move coming out of Classic. And now, is he actually just going to go into the main base? It looks like he is. TY is already starting to react to this. I mean, looks like there's 2 sentries in the Warp Prison, but they're not going to be able to get that complete wall off. So Classic, I mean, a cool attempt of a move to follow this up, but does end up getting pushed back. So right now, I mean, Classic gave himself a fair bit of life in this game, but as I say that, Widowmine drop from TY has killed off 13 probes. It looks like those mines will just walk away too. So I mean, Classic's economy really taking a beating here. And that definitely hurts. I mean, maybe he could have macroed out of it from that situation, but TY, that did him a world of good there, getting such a nice Widowmine drop-off. Classic has started a 3rd base, but he is definitely hurting by all means, and may just want to keep trying to commit. And I mean, he's being active out on the map with these Stalkers. That's the thing. Stalkers, they may not be good later on in the game. They may not be, They may not be the strongest units, they may not deal the most damage, but they are very, very mobile. This one Marine for TY, by the way, just trying to kill a probe. Now, 2 Stalkers, or a few Stalkers moving in for Classic. Well, that's more than a few, pardon me. But Classic having to back on out, just trying to pick off whatever he can. That's what you do with Blink Stalkers. You use their mobility. But okay, now we're seeing a bit of a drop coming in from Classic. Okay, that was an odd one. A single sentry dropped, I guess, just realizing that he had that, so may as well try. Meanwhile, these Stalkers trying to pick off whatever they can. Still sharking about. Classic knows that in a head-on fight, he's going to lose to TY. He's just dragging this game out, really, or just, yeah, just dragging this situation out, trying to make it so that he has as much time as possible, really, for a comeback. And here we see his Stalkers pulling the bio of TY out of position. Looks like a Stalker is going to go down, unfortunate for him. These spiky Stalkers, though, they're doing a lot of work for Classic. By the way, the spiky Stalkers are just so cool. Look at those spikes they got on their back, guys. Now, Classic stepping on down. Going to be backing out, though. I mean, his Stalkers are in an odd spot, but TY knows that, I mean, Classic has just been harassing him if he decides to try and push on in. As this has gone on, Classic has been trying to build up a stronger ground army. I mean, his economy isn't that great, but he might have been able to make something happen here. Got to be careful with those Stalkers. Comes on in once again. Got to zoom out as far as possible. Classic's really split up, but TY is out on the map just with a portion of his army right now. Not all of it's there. The remainder of it's at his third base, keeping that safe, but here we go. Classic just trying to pick off any unit that he can with these Stalkers, with their mobility. Gotta be careful. Oh, another one goes down. That does hurt. I mean, Stalker numbers, like, you have to be very efficient with them to make it work. Now, TY, as we see, I mean, he lost his original third base, so he decided to float over his own main base. That's something that Terran can do every now and then. Just really keeps that Terran economy going without too many issues. A few Zealots are going to drop in towards this third, but Marines and plenty of units in position to deal with this. Looks like Liberators will actually kill off the Warp Prism, or will they? They shoot pretty slow. So Classic, good choice to recall there, getting that Warp Prism out of there. Now, Psystorm on the way for Classic. So, I mean, he's done a good job keeping this game going. I mean, he's not fallen yet. TY is getting into Ghosts while there's a Psionic Storm on the way for Classic, but he does have that Prism, so using Prisms and High Templar, and it is a way to sort of counteract that EMP of Ghosts. So, I mean, Classic, while he was in a very bad situation, and his situation still isn't great, I mean, his economy is not that fantastic. It's not the end of the world, and he's definitely got a chance in this. He's now moving out on the map, and I don't think TY actually knows about this move out, whereas Classic, with that Observer, seeing everything, okay, now TY definitely knows. So Classic, got to be careful not to get caught out with this army. And we'll see. I mean, he is out on the map. No High Templars in with this. A lot of sentries, but there is Ghosts in this army, so Classic's got to be real careful here. He does not want to get caught out. Loses his Observer there, now not aware of where TY is. And he's moving on down. He doesn't want to get caught out, but he may just have been. Here goes Classic, pardon me. Lots of force fields going down, but there's a ton of EMP landing on the sentries, knocking out most of that remaining energy. So Classic now fighting off. He did a good job force fielding out a ton of the army of TY, but the fight still not going fantastic for him. I mean, his army count is just falling, but here comes in the High Templar in the Prism with the Psystorm. Is that actually going to be enough to push Classic through here? Archon gets formed there as all the Psystorm has been dropped. The bio is very red. However, I mean, those Archons are useless while they're morphing, and they are just being focused down. Classic doing his best to hold on, but his army supply really has dropped now. He's being forced back, and TY's pushing across the map. And there's no more High Templar in the on the back burner for Classic, so he doesn't have that going for him. And suddenly he's just got Link Stalkers and Zealots versus upgraded bio. Classic does have the upgrade advantage. He's got +2 armor, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough to keep these Zealots going. The Stalkers focus down the Liberator. Classic's got a micro to the best visibility, and he's trying his best, but no, GG gets called. TY takes game number 1 there. And what a crazy game between the two of them, that's for sure. And that's why I wanted to cast Classic versus TY. I mean, Classic got hit hard just sort of from the nature of the openings, but high-level players like that can always make it a game. Now, here we go. Got to enter my password. Wrong. With older replays, Blizzard wants you to sign out and sign on in. which is a bit of a bummer, but loading into the next game now. Unable to launch previous version because game is currently busy. Huh. That's a new one, guys. I apologize for that. But, can we get on in? There we go. Do apologize about that, lads. All right. Anyway, the map's going to be Cerulean Fall for the next one between these two. Guys, I do feel a little bit bad. I'm not some monster who just hates casting anything without Terran, but I was looking through all the IEM series and I thought, okay, as far as like looking at what games are good and whatnot, I saw Classic versus TY and I just thought I gotta cast it. Doesn't matter if I've cast games with Terran in a lot. And TY always a treat to watch no matter. There's just some players, regardless of their... I'm sounding so wholesome, regardless of their race. I mean, some players are just always awesome to watch, but every race in Starcraft 2 has a few pro players who are just just always a treat. Their games, it doesn't matter if you play their race, whether you dislike whether they're Zerg or Protoss or Terran, it doesn't matter. Their games are always great to watch. But enough of that rambling. Spawning in the bottom left-hand side of the map, it's Gosu Crew's Classic. And spawning up in the top right-hand side of the map, representing Team Splice, it's TY. So, I mean, Classic goes for his gateway on the low ground, going for this cool wall off to prevent the Reaper from easily jumping on in. Then sending that probe across the map. Now, probe going to be getting on into the main base. Gonna start zapping away on that SCV. So Classic, I mean, that's one thing that you can do if you're a Protoss player. You can harass the SCV. Sort of helps justify that early scout a little bit. Now, TY, as far as everything's considered this game, though, is just going to be going for a more normal opening. And you can't blame him this game, and the reason for that is that Cerulean Fall, a bigger map, a bit tougher to cheese on. Classic trying to be a pain and delay that command center going up. TY, by the way, look at that, just ever such a slight thing. He swaps the SCVs. He doesn't want an injured SCV on the low ground in case the probe came back in case there was a quick rush coming out of Classic or something like that. Small things like that make a player really good at the game. Classic is getting out an Adept, got his Cyber Core on the way, or finished up, pardon me, so that Adept's already on the way. And then, Factory on the way for TY, so I mean, yeah, just a standard opening from the Terran player. And, oh, pardon me. Whoa, that was a bit of a lag spike, I do apologize. Now, Reaper's moving out for TY, not just making a beeline towards Classic space, looking out for proxies, maybe a little bit untrusting of the Protoss players, or of this Protoss player in particular. Classic went for a Stargate in the previous game. Wasn't a proxy or anything like that, though, but, you can never be too careful. Now, Classic coming in with his Adept, though, going to be heading towards that natural. There's just a Marine here, so Classic able to chase that Marine. Now, the main prize for a Protoss player in a situation like this is getting the SCV. And if Classic can delay that command center, that would be absolutely huge, and he does. That SCV, keep in mind, it had been bruised enough, so that Adept two-shotted it. And now TY's command center is no longer out, and Classic's actually able to get a pretty fair delay on this because he's also got a Stalker out here. The Stalker actually finds the Reaper, and is it going to be able to kill it? No, it doesn't quite, but I mean, with the Adept on TY's natural, with the Stalker coming on in, this is very, very good for the Protoss player. Just the nature of this, TY wasn't quite ready. He just wants to finish up that command center, then he can lift it off and it's fine, but this has already been a very significant delay from the Protoss player. TY sees or manages to get up that command center, which is nice for him, but Classic's not done bullying his opponent just yet. That Adept given the high ground vision, and Classic still just microing around. He's got another Stalker rallying on in here, and then an Oracle following up behind this with his Stargate. So, I mean, Classic just putting on a fair bit of low-tech early game aggression. Now, the Reaper for TY is going to be moving into Classic space. Classic's going to need something to deal with that, but he does have a Stalker popping out, so that's going to be help him out a bit there. TY does manage to pick off one of the Reapers. All the while, TY's natural command center has been forced off. The Classic, of course, can't push up the ramp because it's not like he's actually committing fully to an attack or anything like that, but as far as bullying goes, forcing the Terran off their command center is huge. And then in comes this Oracle. It's killed off a couple of workers here, nabs up a third, And then looks like it will be getting on out. Gonna find a Marine or two. Oh, actually gets a little too close to the Widow Mine. That's a nice pickoff. Classic also may have to back off now, losing that Oracle. And then a Cyclone's out. So, okay, yeah, this is Classic overstaying his welcome a little bit. Stalker's definitely going to be going down to this Cyclone. That gets picked off, and the rest of the units do have to retreat. So, TY got hurt a fair bit there, though. But Classic, I mean, could have gotten out with a little bit more. Could have, say, kept his Oracle alive. Not or moved out with his units a little bit sooner, kept that Stalker alive. But regardless, a very nice opening for Classic. He is getting into a third base, which you have to be careful as a Protoss player, because while TY's down on economy, Terran Bio with, say, Stimmed Marines, Medivacs, whatever else Terran really chooses as far as what they really want to focus on. Oh, Classic also playing with fire, Widowmine in there, but gotta be careful with this Oracle. Has to go hide on in at the back there. As TY, he is going to be having this bio on the way, just producing Marines. He's going to have Stim, and then looks like he's planning on getting out some Medivacs. So a bit of a heavy Stim build. Then going to be looking to micro and pressure class again. Stimmed bio is very good versus Protoss players when they don't have the right tech to deal with it. When, say, they don't have an adequate sort of foundation of units, like, say, maybe an Immortal or two, some Sentries, Stalkers, say, if they're going low tech about it. Otherwise, the Protoss, they want something like Colossus. They want something like, say, Charge or something along those lines to prevent the bio just from really bullying the Protoss player. And TY, he really is going to be relying on having that out. Because exactly what he's doing is, he is just committing a lot to this sort of two-base pressure as, I mean, he has his Stim on the way now. Classic going to be finding a Marine out on the map. Meanwhile, moving out with a probe as, keep in mind, guys, Classic, he's gone for Resonating Glaives here. He's got +1 on the way. And that's sort of like a very mid-game style. And, I mean, TY wants bio to try and deal with that, but you really need a adequate amount of bio, and Classic's just going to be able to warp in an absolute ton of Adepts here. He's warping some into his natural. He's going to have to deal with this drop, but Marines without combat shield, I mean, Adepts can definitely take care of them. Now, the Marines come in for TY. Going to be trying to deny +1, but not quite able to get that done in time. He unpowers a lot of the gateways, so that's a nice move there. Now going to be looking to get the Twilight Council, but here comes in these Adepts. They're going to be picking off some of the Marines and forcing TY out. And yeah, Classic loses his Twilight Council, but he already has Glaives done. And he already has Glaives done, and that's going to force a hard response from TY as Adepts, they're going to be moving across the map. TY, he's got to be getting ready for this. He's got 2 tanks on the high ground. That'll definitely help out to defend from any sort of aggression. Meanwhile, TY moving out with another drop here. Also has this drop to the north, but can he hold off versus what Classic's about to send at him? I'm a little bit concerned for Classic if he goes for this. TY is very well prepared here. He knows that he's facing the Adepts at this point, so he's getting up a wall. Lots of Widow Mines, and Classic was thinking about committing there. Shades in one of the Adepts to eat the initial shots there, but in the end, he does end up recalling. Classic recalls his Adepts. Where'd they go to? Towards the third base. He's now got to deal with these Marines running into his natural. And so Classic's Adept tech not getting too much done. TY committing with this sort of bio early on, very early on, has been able to sort of keep Classic back, keep him down. But economy-wise, it's still going pretty good for Classic. I mean, he does have up a third base. Not the best tech is... Well, the best tech, no, that's not what's going for him. But as far as everything, like as far as the economy goes, that's good. So, you know, he's trying to get into Blink, getting Templar Archives on the way, getting Protoss Armor on the way. So looking to have a slight upgrade lead for a time. TY, though, is also getting his +1. Now, Classic, going to be, or TY, pardon me, going to be grouping up and moving across the map. And this is where it can actually become a little bit concerning for the Protoss players. All Classic really has as far as strong units go are the Adepts, and they're not that good versus this sort of massive bio. I mean, they're Stalkers, but they don't have Blink yet. There is going to be a slight upgrade lead for now for Classic, which will definitely help him out, help these Adepts succeed in dealing with this bio. But Classic still got to be very careful. Nicely done, though, picking off a few Widow Mines. TY, what he really wants is for Classic to commit to a fight, and then he can back up, kite that bio back versus this army. He's now getting tanks set up, so he's going to really be bringing the fight to his opponent. Tanks unsieging, he's going to start inching forward. And here we go, Marauders stepping forward. TY just looking to take a prime fight. That's what he wants right now. Gotta be careful with those Marauders, but they're very tanky units, so he's just gonna keep them alive with the Medivac support. Adept's walking forward into tank fire. That's what TY wants. He eventually wants Classic to have no choice but to attack into him, and that moment may be coming. Classic's waiting, though, I feel, for Blink, most likely, which will help him out with these Stalkers. He's just warping in more and more Adepts for now, though. Just trying to have enough muscle. That's really the best option for him at this time, and it looks like he's going for it this time. Adepts are splitting up and eating a lot of Widowmine shots. There's a very nice concave for TY, so, I mean, a few of the mines get cleared out. But TY is still in a very good spot. He's got his tanks on the low ground there, or tank on the low ground, pardon me. But an absolute ton of Widow Mines there. Upgrades are now equal for both players. TY still pushing this location, wanting to bait Classic into a bad fight. Classic has a pretty good concave here. These Adepts getting a lot of face time with this bio. Throwing those glaives, they deal a lot of damage to the Marines. Now, can Classic keep enough of a buffer though that his army won't just fold? More Adepts being warped in to reinforce with this. The Stalkers are there, but the tanks, mines, and Liberators, just those tech units able to get so much done to Classic's army. It's really not good at fighting this. Classic's going to be pulling the probes, it looks like. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, some Adepts going for some harassment, but he needs to deal with the army right now. I mean, his third base is under fire. Widowmine's getting more and more connections. Stalkers pulling forward. They're going to pick off the two Liberators. They're probably going to want to get the tank as well, and Immortal's in here as well, but Classic's army really is shrinking right now. He's warping in a few more Adepts to buffer. This one Immortal's doing the best it can, but it's not going to be able to hold on for now. And TY, with just a little bit of bio, was able to push forward to break Classic's location, but all the while, the Adepts getting some good harassment on Classic's side, or on TY's side of the map. A few Stalkers have been warped in, but they're actually a little bit over their head here. Those units going to try and escape in that warp prism, but the prism actually goes down. That is absolutely huge for TY. I mean, TY's economy hasn't been great this game, but I mean, he just picked off Classic's third, dealing a nice blow to it. He's floating over his main base to keep that going, similar to game number 1. Classic does have +2 on the way, so that'll help out his army, but I mean, not a whole lot else going for him. And the bio for TY just has this efficiency, this sort of finesse that just the gateway units that Classic has do not have. I mean, there's a reason why Terran players are happy to make bio all game, whereas Protoss players, they don't like being stuck on this tech that Classic's on, and he's exactly stuck on it. He can't afford to tech into anything else. He's warping in a few sentries to try and help out this army, but he doesn't even have any anti-air to deal with this Liberator. He's down on supply by a absolutely huge margin, getting some force fields off, trying to force TY back there. But no, this is looking very, very rough for Classic. Okay, now yeah, TY stepping forward. It looks like he's unpowering this gateway here. Okay, probes being pulled. Classic trying to make this hold desperately happen. He picks off the Liberator. I mean, he's got the slight upgrade lead. The Immortals putting out as much damage as they can, but there's just too much for TY. Classic down on supply. Probes being pulled once again, and those are not probes he can afford to lose. TY fakes it. Guys, but I just realized something. I looked at this wrong. There's actually a third game in here, and maybe more, actually. So I think this might have actually been a best of 5 between Classic and TY. So yeah, okay, so a best of 5 between these two. We'll get right on into that. Ay. Okay, so one more Terran versus Protoss. This is one more at least, because yeah, this is actually a best of 5. And TY with a 2-0 lead in it. So Classic, I mean, this is from the qualifiers, so I mean, if Classic was to advance in the qualifiers, he needs to win the next 3 games. But all right, we'll get on into the next one. Forgive me for having a drink there, guys, but I mean, I didn't expect this to be as long of a series, but apparently it is. So I mean, hey, more games, that's always good. And we can't stop in the middle of a series. I'm not going to cut the series like that. So Classic versus TY, it's actually a best of 5, and we'll see if Classic's able to take another one of these games. TY's been looking very good, though, and his opponent, I already said his name, is TY in Classic. I've been talking about him for like the past half an hour, guys, so I hope you know who they are at this point. But, all right, we'll see how TY is going to play it out this time. Just barracks into gas here, so a bit of the older sort of style in that regard. But Classic, once again, moving out with a very early probe scout. Okay, so yeah, moving out with that. Double gas on the way for TY. Now, what exactly is Classic getting up to here? I mean, like, I liked the plan in the last game, but he had a good opening, but in the past 2 games, really, he's fallen to the strong attacks of TY that he doesn't have a proper response to. And when an attack like that comes at you, it's just a snowball at that point. Like, Classic's played for behind in both games for a time, but, I mean, once your opponent really reaches that condition in which they get a critical blow against you like that, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, this game, TY, no proxy or anything. Classic scouts out, so knows exactly what he's up to. Getting out a Zealot, actually, right out the gate here. Got a Cyber Core on the way before his Nexus. And so Classic actually may be looking to put a bit of pressure on his opponent. So I assume, I mean, you go for a Zealot, and that's to deal with the Reaper or to sneak around the map. This early on, I mean, when you know your opponent's not proxying, it's generally to move across the map. So that's exactly what Classic is going to be doing here. Getting an Adept behind it. He was hoping to be able to delay a command center, delay whatever tech was on the way for his opponent. And that's what he's going to be looking to do this time. So far, TY building up minerals, but where's he going to build the command center is the question. And, oh, pardon me, building up minerals for a starport, apparently, it would seem. So TY going to be looking to proxy Classic. Pardon me, guys. Oh, I'm so bad. I left myself open on TeamSpeak or something like that. But now an Adept out on the map. Probe gonna be found. Classic had it out on the map, but nothing really coming out of that. And here we see this Adept's gonna be shading on in, but TY no command center on the way. He's got the wall up. There's the command center maybe starting, and it actually gets queued up. This is actually fantastic timing for Classic as Adept gets on in here. Of course, he's taking damage on his side of the map, though, as this Reaper's getting on in here. Looks like it's picking off a probe. 2 probes, actually, so 2 probes, very nicely done. The Adept is able to delay this, but 2 Hellions can actually take on an Adept when properly microed, so this is definitely going to hurt the Protoss player. Able to delay the command center a little bit, but ends up getting pushed back. That Adept has to go and hide her face there. But TY, he's been planning on going for this sort of common 1-2 attack in which you go for, say, a Liberator. Sometimes with a proxied starport, you'll go for a Medivac and drop the Hellions, but I'm a big fan of the build TY is doing right now because basically the Protoss player needs a very proper response to each sort of attack that the Terran's going for. The first is going to be Hellions running into the natural or, say, maybe even into the main base, which requires like a lot of damage in order to shut them down quickly before they kill off units. But then, of course, there's the Liberator, which requires range defense in the form of Stalkers. And here we see the Stalkers have gone to the natural. Probes actually get lifted up into a prism. That was actually such a sick play coming out of Classic. But the Liberator in the main base getting a bit of damage done. How many kills? 5 kills. That's a pretty decent amount. Now here comes in the Hellions once again. Classic, I mean, his prism can probably lift up his probes again, but some of them are going to be dying. Now here comes the Hellions. They're going to be trying to make it into the main base. They just need to get off 1 or 2 shots for TY's sake, and it looks like they do. So a fair few probes going down to this opening. 12 have died in total. That's actually a lot of damage getting done for TY. Classic was looking to put on a bit of his own aggression, it seems, with a Warp Prism with some Stalkers. But TY not having none of it as he just really pulls the rug out from underneath Classic. He's now producing Marines, getting tanks on the way. Knows that Classic is going to be coming to attack him, but with a tank, with a good number of Marines, he should be fine. I wouldn't even mind a bunker for TY. I'm a little bit concerned about the state of his natural with these Stalkers coming on in. It's very tough to defend 2 locations. He's setting up a tank at his natural, but he may just have to evacuate with these SCVs. There's a lot of Stalkers out for Classic, as he is going to be really committing to this. So that command center probably going to need to lift off. It looks like TY is actually going to try and save it here, though. Getting that tank on the low ground, trying to push these Stalkers back. Got to be careful, though, before a because if the Protoss just comes on in and bowls you over, you're just done for. So TY has to re-raise those depots, get those tank seats up. He's pulling one of them back. I mean, Classic looks like he's trying to get on in here. Microing with these Stalkers, not able to break the front there. The tanks get enough damage off. However, I mean, TY was bullied off his base. Classic decides to recall, leaves one Adept. She's got to walk all the way home. That poor Adept. Now, oh, she even gets shot by a tank. It's a hard life being an Adept this game. But, looks like Classic, he's been able to locate the starport of TY. Knows that there's Banshees out on the map. There's 2 Banshees coming on in here, though, and this is really going to hurt Classic. I mean, the shield battery can help versus 1 Banshee, but it can't help versus 2. There's no cloak on the Banshees, though, so the Stalkers can send them packing, but still picking off a few workers here, and that's not really something that Classic can easily afford to lose. 2 Banshees thinking about saving the starport, not able to do it. TY, he does have that Raven on the way. They'll be able to drop an auto turret as soon as it pops out, but it could actually just be done for as soon as it dies. Classic probably going to want to chase that down. Looks like he may actually just get that Raven for free, but oh, he actually turns around. Looks like he's a little busy. Liberator harassment at his natural, so TY, sort of by extension, saving his Raven as well. A very nice move, getting some more harassment done, and very well done. TY won't be able to save his starport, though, which does hurt a little bit for the Terran. He's got to rebuild another one of those. That's always a cost of proxying any building. You may have to build a new one, or you may have to wait a long time before it flies back. Now, Classic, just hanging around with the Stalkers, with his Adept. Or, pardon me, with the Stalkers and Adept in the Warp Prism. Now, he's going to be looking to try and get something done, but TY with a tank in good position, able to shoot off these units. Classic may still be able to pick off a worker or 2, splitting them up. Gotta be careful not to lose those units there. I think he might have lost a Stalker, picked off a couple of SCVs, so he wants to keep the pressure on his opponent while he tries to reach a higher tech, but Classic, this game, he's going for Resonating Glaives on 2 bases, which is a little bit concerning in my opinion. I mean, Resonating Glaives can hit very precise timings. It can absolutely pull Terrans apart. But as far as a comeback unit goes, and I would say that's what Classic needs, a bit of a comeback unit, because he's going to need something to deal with the stim, the +1 that's coming across the map, and Mass Adepts are not really that to deal with what the Terran player has, so you'd think he'd probably want something more like High Templar, like Colossus, be trying to reach one of those techs before TY comes at him, because I don't know what good a lot of Adepts are going to do for the Protoss player. Classic, though, I mean, that's exactly what he's planning on doing. 5 gateways on the way, planning on making exactly that, a lot of Adepts. Classic is also getting up his gold base here, and it's not quite at the normal location, a little bit to the left, as that doesn't allow him to mine at the gold minerals. Now, so he's got to be mining at that, then just hanging around with his Warp Prism still, so he's going to have +1, but it's going to be 1-1, so the upgrades will really cancel out. That'll help the Adepts a little bit, but I'm still a little bit concerned for Classic. I mean, Mass Adepts are good, but once the Terran has critical biomass, it becomes a little bit concerning, and TY's reaching that. I mean, he's got tanks, he's got mines, he's going to be having out medivacs, and he's teching at a very respectable rate. TY didn't, like, rush and throw down a 3rd command center. He's just now getting that on the way, now that he already has his stim done, now that he's got a good chunk of bio. Observer stays alive, though, despite a Raven flying past it. Now, Classic's planning on moving out for an attack, though he's warped in a fair few Adepts already. Oh, he's actually taking a bit of harassment here at his gold base. Stalkers have to hug those minerals in order to defend from that Banshee. Banshee will go down, a bit of miss micro there from TY, and now we're actually seeing a bit of a base trade go down. These Adepts are shading on in, but I think this could be Classic a little bit overcommitted. He's warping in more and more Adepts, killing off these units. TY actually dropping in the main base of Classic, going to be heading towards the 3rd base now. It looks like they're heading back. Looks like probes were being planned on hold to try and shut down this drop. If Classic can shut down this drop, that would be very good for him, because he's dealing a lot of damage to TY, but oh, look at this. Anti-armor missile goes down, auto turrets go down. The army of Classic is just melting here, so while he may be able to deal with this drop, that's what really hurts him. And I mean, those Adepts, they just melted, being overcommitted on that side of the map. I got there just at the end of the fight, but no, that was pretty good for TY, and just the supply really tells the story right now. He's able to deny mining at this 3rd base, because it's just not an easy location to defend. And for Classic, it looks like I was a little bit surprised when I realized that this was when the 3 games were part of a best of 5. And so, but TY looks like he's going to be taking the 3-0 here as these Adepts getting a bit of harassment done. I mean, Adepts can always get something done, but Classic would have to kill off a lot of workers and buy a lot of time in order to stay alive in this game. He's not even able to mine off at his 3rd base. He wanted that gold base to sort of give him a little boost, but it's actually just being a pain that he can't mine off it. He's got Blink now, so he can get on top of these units. Going to try and pick off the Marauders. Looks like he'll be able to get some of the Medivacs as well, but the concern is the army for TY. This is just an absolutely huge army rolling across the map. And the Warp Prism can try and get some harassment done. But a few Adepts, what can they really get done at this point? I mean, TY, he's keeping a lot of units back at home. He can kill off a lot of SCVs and such, but, I mean, Classic knows he can't fight this army of TY, which is just phenomenal compared to what he has. And these probes just remining at that 3rd base once again, but it's not going to be for long. Observer gets picked off. It wanders to the wrong side of town. Classic is not going to be able to mine at this base. TY's like, all right, you're counterattacking again. I got tanks that'll trade out. I got mines that'll trade out. You just don't have enough stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to see Classic tap out. And there it is, GG TY. 3-0's Classic, looking good, that's for sure. Now, thanks so much to everyone for tuning into this game. As usual, if you guys stayed to the very end, make sure to hit that like button. Let's see. I mean, you guys have been knocking it out of the park with liking of these casts lately. So let's see. Can we hit 50 likes? That would be insane. But anyway, if you guys are new to the channel and actually just sort of checked out this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm always casting more StarCraft 2. And yeah, if you stayed to the end, that says something. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.